Hello and welcome to Connected TV. I'm Paul Skelton and I'm here today at the Integrate Expo at the Connected Conference with Rich Green. Rich, welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Now you're here to talk at the Connected Conference and you'll be talking a bit about... That's right, yeah, unconnected TV at that. Obviously what we're talking about today is a lot about voice control in the market, and we do have Amazon here talking, but you're going to be talking about what comes next, what goes beyond voice. So I guess what comes after voice?
Well, voice is really important, and voice is a way for us to interact naturally with artificial intelligence. So it's the AIs that are really the story. And the AIs become pervasive around us, through us. It's kind of like the Force. You know, the Force is with us. The AI is with us. And so how do you interact with the AIs? And I think that's really the more interesting story. The AIs, the artificial intelligence behind what makes voice work, will continue to improve in capacity and in performance to the point where we can start to trust them in ways like you would trust a butler, or it's a personal assistant. So I think that the story here is not so much voice is boring. Okay, it's like pressing a button on a keypad. It's okay, fine. That's a user interface. When I have a friend named Tom Gruber, who was one of the co-founders of Siri, and I was with him at a retreat once, the night that Siri went live on the Apple App Store, and he was explaining to us, okay, now I can tell you what we're doing. And he told us how Siri works, and he said, well, voice is actually the most boring part of what we do. It's all of the intelligence behind it. So they actually hired a different company called Nuance Communications to do their voice part. So that's why I like to talk about, well, what's beyond voice? That's not the story. The story is the assistant. Now, how can a personal digital assistant really become useful in our lives? Well, it needs to be trusted. And right now, we don't have a very trusting environment. With the shakeout from Facebook and the political issues around Twitter, and certainly with Google, we have a public now who's being alerted to the fact that we really can't trust the technologies behind these companies, because what they do is they resell our personal information, our personal data. It's an advertising model. If we can shake through the advertising model and get into a subscription economy, much like a Netflix or what have you, then the trust factor starts to go up. We have a bit more control over what these assistants can scrape from us. So an example of building trust in an assistant is the assistant answers back or asks you, do you want me to record that? Do you want me to save that? You can say, no, delete what I just said, and have faith that the assistant will do that. I attended a conference last week in Palo Alto at the Xerox Park, the Palo Alto Research Center, which is where the PC was invented. It's a pretty cool place. And Adam Chire was there. So he was Tom Gruber's partner at Siri. He founded Siri. And then he went on to found a company called Viv, V-I-V, which was to be more open and more accessible to developers, very open APIs, to make more things around us intelligent and relatable. He then sold Viv to Samsung. And we're like, really? You're trying to be open here and you sell it to Samsung? And he goes, no, just wait. He says, so the Viv technology is now migrating into Bixby. So now we need to watch very carefully what's going on with Samsung's Bixby, because it's got Viv intelligence behind it. And then he said, so it'll be for, working within the environment of Samsung devices for a while, but then we're going to open it wide open. All right, and everyone's going to have access to this. That's pretty exciting. And he went on to say, he said, it's the assistant, stupid. The assistant is the next computing paradigm. So he says that the assistant is more impactful than the web and more impactful than mobility, than the mobile device. It's like, wow, those are powerful statements. But when you think it through, yeah, he's right. You think about what we've learned from science fiction, HAL 9000. Okay, that's an assistant that was the interface to all things information. So what Adam Chire is saying is it's the next web. It becomes the web. So our interaction with the things that we normally go to the web, will be with us all the time. And that the assistant will be pervasive across all devices, across all times of our life, whether the engine behind it is Cortana or Siri or Alexa, it doesn't matter. That we're going to have ownership of this assistant, and that's what is going to hover around our lives. I read a lot about Kevin Kelly. He's a really interesting guy. He founded Wired magazine. He's got some really great books out. And he most recently said that the assistant becomes the GPS, your personal GPS, the GPS of your life. It guides you to the next turn. It's anticipating your next move. And once we get some trust around that, that's it. That's sort of like the end game in how we interface with technology.
So you mentioned relatability just before, and I guess one of the interesting things we spoke about earlier was how they've actually turned Siri into a person and employed someone to develop an entire character around Siri, and that's meant to obviously build trust because it's coming from a different perspective, a point of knowledge. So exactly what have they done?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? So I attended a conference at Stanford University, the Media X Lab, and Apple has hired a novelist, a professional writer, a novelist, and they have a whole department around Siri. So what they've done is they want Siri to be a relatable entity in our lives, so they've created a personality around Siri, clearly, but they've also gone so far as to create a character, like a novelist would create a character in a book. So Siri has a family. Okay, Siri has mom and dad, grandparents. They've created a family tree around her. And so as the responses to an utterance, to a request come in, Siri has a coherence around how she behaves emotionally. And over time, you start to trust the personality behind Siri because, in fact, she is a written character, the fully fleshed out. Now, Google is also working on this. They're hiring sociologists, anthropologists, and professional writers, actors. Google, it hired a mime artist, okay? A professional mime artist, the guy that does the French thing, and they watch how he does his miming routine so that they can be as expressive as they possibly can with the assistant. So the assistant needs to be as expressive as a mime artist. Isn't that interesting? So they're really stretching. They're going after anthropologists and psycholinguists and just building these characters for relatability. Relatability is the key word here. You want to be able to speak to an assistant in a way that you would speak to other people. And at some point, it becomes so important in your life that it's a character you don't want to live without. That's what the hope is.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. I would have to disagree with one thing that you just said there, and that is I don't think a mime artist can be professional, but that's personal choice. But no, thank you for joining me, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you so much.